I'm Cynthia Schendel, and I serve as co-chair of the Social Work Advisory Committee of the Kansas Behavioral Sciences Regulatory Board. Today is Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. I ask the members of the advisory committee to respond to a roll call to signify their presence at this open meeting that is being conducted remotely by conference call and other electronic medium. Andrea Perdomo Morales.
And I believe she's absent today.
Yes, Donna Honer-Queel.
And she is also absent.
Also absent. Annis Boyer will be joining us later, hopefully. Jasmine Cohen-Young.
Present.
Mike Gillette.
Here.
Leanne Gingery.
Here.
Yolando Johnson. I believe also reported absent.
Yes.
Christy Sanders.
Present.
Eric Schonecker.
Present.
Robin Unruh. And Callie Worth. I think Callie reported absent, but
Sorry.
Oh, pardon me?
Robin is here. I think she was muted when she responded, but
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Glad to see you. Okay. Oh, there's more. Sorry. I went off of my script. I note the following BSRB staff members are also present. David Fye.
Thank you, Cynthia. And unless we have something that comes up with the regulations, I informed Leslie that she could work on some other things today, so it'll just be me unless she is needed. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next, David Fye will read a message concerning this meeting being held remotely.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. This is David Fye, Executive Director for the Kansas Behavioral Sciences Regulatory Board. Public comment allows the public to address the advisory committee about any concerns, but the Kansas Open Meeting Act, or KOMA, does not require the advisory committee to provide public comment or answer questions from individuals. Individuals requesting to provide public comment could contact the Executive Director prior to the meeting by sending an email to david.fye@ks.gov. There will be no public comment at this meeting as no individuals requested time for public comment. Because we are conducting this public meeting remotely by conference call and other teleconference ability, I state for the record the following information. Public access to this meeting is being conducted by medium of interactive communication that allows members of the public without cost to attend the meeting through the use of the conference call and on the board's YouTube channel. While the meeting is conducted remotely, the requirements of the KOMA are not suspended. Therefore, we will be conducting this meeting pursuant to the KOMA. On April 22nd, 2026, we sent notice of the advisory committee meeting to all individuals who had requested notice of such meetings. The notice was also posted on the board's website, ksbsrb.ks.gov. You may obtain a copy of the notice on that website. An agenda and other meeting material have been posted on the board's website and are available for review. You may also request a copy of the agenda specifically by sending an email to david.fye@ks.gov with the subject line request for the agenda, and it will be sent to you. The notice contains information for the conference call and YouTube channel that allows the public to attend the meeting free of charge. The notice also states that if we have any technical issues during the meeting, you may call the board office at 785-296-3240 or send an email to bsrb@ks.gov. A recording of the meeting will be available on the BSRB YouTube channel following the conclusion of the meeting by using the link to the meeting on the agenda. And the conference call line is active. I did check it before we got started. There's no one currently on the line, but if I hear someone connect and introduce themselves, I will let you know.
Okay. Thank you, David. Okay, first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. So if you had a chance to look that over, are there any suggested modifications, or do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as reported?
This is Leanne. I give a motion to approve the agenda as recorded.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Hearing none, the agenda is approved as written. Next item is to approve the minutes from our last month's meeting on April 7th. If you had a chance to look at those, David sent those along with the agenda. Are there any changes, modifications to the minutes as drafted? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes from the April 7th meeting as proposed?
This is
I
Leanne.
move that we this is Eric. I move that we accept the minutes.
Thank you, Eric. Second, I heard
This
from
is Leanne. I
Christy.
second it.
Leanne, okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Sounds like our minutes are also approved. Next, we will have the executive director's report.
All right,
David?
thank you, Cynthia.
Mhm.
We will start first with some items from a recent board meeting, and then we'll talk about some BSRB operations items. First, the board last met with a full meeting on Monday, May 11th. There was a guest at that meeting. So we normally have hybrid meetings for board meetings, allowing some board members to attend in person if they wish, or others to attend remotely. We had an in-person guest, and that was Dr. Mary Ann Bernetti Atwell. She is the CEO for the Association of State and Provincial Psychology Boards, ASPPB. She has made it part of her priority working with that association to go and visit all the different states and provinces that regulate psychology. And so we had invited her to come visit the office, and it was nice. She provided some updates to the board about some of the work that association is doing, answered some questions from board members, and it was nice to have her here in Kansas. So appreciate everyone for making her feel welcome. I thought some of the information she shared was helpful. You know, we do our best to bring back news and updates from the associations, but it was really nice to hear from someone from the association. Um, Also, concerning items from the board meeting, there have been a number of mid-year meetings recently. One of them was a mid-year meeting from ASPPB. One of the items that was discussed at that mid-year meeting is that association is in the process of introducing a new version of their licensing examination, the EPPP. They had put out an announcement that that test for psychologists and master's level psychologists will be coming out in 2027. They had also announced that there will be an increase in the cost of their exam. The increase is going to be $50 starting in 2028. But then they also made an announcement that they would be increasing the cost of their exam every 2 years thereafter. And so some of our advisory committees had raised concerns given those cost considerations and asked me to attend that meeting and express the concern and really push for information about why that was occurring. They are combining the current version of the test, the EPPP, with another version of the exam called the EPPP 2. In the past few years, ASPPB had developed a skills-based assessment, which is how they titled the EPPP 2. And the traditional EPPP has been more of a knowledge-based test. And so they allowed some states to opt in for if they wanted to require the EPPP 2. There was originally a plan by that association to require passage of both tests, but the members of the body were not supportive of that decision and were able to convince their association board to change their mind. And so the alternate proposal, instead of requiring passage of both tests, was to make an integrated test. So this test that's coming out next year will be the integrated test. I did push for information. I expressed concern about the fee increase for individuals taking that licensing examination. And what I was informed by the board was that there was an issue with more of the messaging, that they did not truly intend for it to be an increase in the price of their exam every 2 years. They would like to have a conversation about the price of the exam and review information, look at things like the consumer price index, but not that they were planning to implement an increase every 2 years, but they wanted to put it out there so people would be aware they were going to have that discussion. So ultimately, even though it was a little bit of a difficult conversation, I got some good results. So I wanted to share kind of what's going on with one of the other agencies just to make you aware by comparison. There was also a meeting of behavior analyst regulators. That is one of the newest professions the board has been regulating, but it is growing significantly over the last few years. There was a meeting in New Orleans, and regulators came together to talk about ways that they can be making positive changes in the area of title protection and clarifying the profession for members of the public, and trying to find greater uniformity in terms of some of their processes state to state. So there will be another meeting later this year in Colorado, but it's been good to see that group of regulators grow and learn to work together on certain issues. There's also a mid-year meeting for the Association of Social Work Boards, ASWB. Because I was attending the ASPPB meeting, I was unable to attend the ASWB mid-year meeting, but Leslie Allen, the assistant director, was able to attend that, as was board member Cynthia Schindel. And so, Cynthia, I might turn it over to you if you have any takeaways you'd like to share from the ASWB mid-year meeting.
Sure, yeah. So this was the educational meeting. Their other meeting every year is their kind of business meeting for the association. And so this one, the entire focus was on clinical supervision. And it was really interesting to hear how the different states some of the states have detailed regulation of clinical supervision and requirements for training for the supervisor, and they have to be board approved, and many of them have to have continuing education about supervision as they may continue to supervise other social workers. And then, other states are more like us. So some of you might know that there was a proposal to require a certain number of hours, and I forget how much it was. It wasn't much, maybe 8 hours or something, of CEs for supervisors in Kansas, and the legislature cut that out of the bill that we presented a few years ago. So currently in Kansas, we do not have any additional requirements other than that you have to be 2 years post LSCSW yourself before you can supervise. And then there are rules about like how much you can do of group or individual for each supervisee. And there are some, and then there's documentation rules, but our supervision of clinicians is not very, very regulated. The manual that Eric and I and Robin worked on couple of years ago revising, we tried to give some more kind of concrete examples of what supervision should look like and what kinds of things should be covered in supervision. But those are, suggestions. They're not regulatory. So certainly this is something I think that we should have on our agenda to talk about. I don't know, politically when we might be able to get anything passed statutorily that would allow us to make regulations. But I think that it's a discussion that we need to be having, because it certainly is the trend across the country that there are more requirements for clinical supervisors than we have in Kansas. So, but it was a very good conference, well attended, and it's always inspiring to talk to social workers from all over the U.S. as well as the Canadian provinces. So it's a great chance to get to go.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. And as you mentioned, there is an annual meeting coming up later this year. I'm sure they will continue some of those topics at the annual meeting, but as you mentioned, the annual meeting is more of a traditional business meeting with a few topical conversations. But I really appreciate you attending that and also representing the state. Appreciate you taking that. So, well, some of the other takeaways from the board meeting I did want to share is so we had a number of new or advisory committee members that were reappointed to their advisory committees by the chair of the board at the board meeting. Three of the members here, Jasmine Cohen Young, Yolanda Johnson, and Christy Sanders, were up at the end of a 2-year term and were reappointed to continue serving on the advisory committee. Any members who did not reach the end of their term this year will reach the end of the term next year, and so we'll look to see who's eligible for reappointment at that time. There's a number of other advisory committees that were doing reappointments. Also, I did want to let you know that your recommendations as it came to regulation of artificial intelligence were delivered to the board and discussed. Not all committees have finalized their recommendations to the board on that topic, but I believe now 4 of the committees have. So I think we're getting closer to having the board take a board level discussion on that topic, but just kind of want to let you know that was continuing to move forward. Addressing just a few BSRB type operations. Just wanted to let you know our staff is working very hard to license individuals. Especially right now, we know that a lot of individuals are graduating and applying for licensure, getting ready to take the test, or have already been taking the test. And so we wish those individuals well, but I've been receiving communication from my licensing team. I've seen the stacks of individuals who have become newly licensed just recently. So congratulations to all those individuals. Looking forward to helping individuals become licensed and then also make sure they're aware of their responsibilities as professionals. We had another meeting this morning with the Office of Information Technology Services as far as moving to our new licensing system under Acela. This has been basically a 2-year implementation process working with OITS, but we are about halfway through that 2-year process of moving our system to a new system under the state's enterprise licensing system. Looking forward to taking some additional steps there, but we had some conversations with them this morning about, with the number of people who've opted into the CE broker way of storing their completion of continuing education hours. We're trying to make sure that there's a live link between our renewal portal and CE broker so people can check those hours as they're doing the renewal process, and making sure that the system they're building for us is going to be good. So I don't have a firm deadline on when we'll be able to start testing that system, but still hopeful that probably by the end of, probably by the beginning of 2027, that's when we'll be able to hopefully start moving to the new system. So we'll have more announcements. Hopefully it won't interrupt operations, but looking forward to continuing to move forward in that way. So I know we have a lot of discussion about applicants today, so I will go ahead and keep my report short, but I'm happy to answer any questions from individuals on any of those topics.
You got any questions for David? Well, the next section is also from David, and that's going to be an update on the social work multi-state compact, which is it's inching closer. It seems like it's taken forever, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. We are now part of 3 different compacts for the mental health professions. The SIPAC, I think, gave us maybe a false perspective when we joined that compact because it had already been created, and the language had been out there for states to pass. We were one of the later states to join that compact, so by the time that we joined, it was fully operational. Their commission had met, basically developed the rules. They had built the system, picked a vendor, gone through all the different steps that are somewhat tedious to get a compact up and running. And so when we joined the SIPAC compact, within 6 months, our psychologists were able to start practicing under that compact. With social work, we were state number 7 to pass that language, and which meant we were the bare minimum number of states that needed to pass that language for the commission to start to have appointees from the states, and then people come together to work on passing bylaws just so the associate or that group could meet and decide on which committees. And then we have received some really helpful assistance from the Council for State Governments. The Association of Social Work Boards has been really helpful as well in terms of working with the federal government to obtain a HRSA grant, to obtain some of the introductory funding to get things at least put in place for the commission to start to work on their rules. I currently serve as a member of both the Rules Committee and the Finance Committee, but not on the Executive Commission. And so there's usually a full commission meeting about once a year. The other meetings of the Finance Committee and Rules Committee are about once a month meetings. And just to let you know, some of the recent topics that we have been working on in those committees. So for the Finance Committee, we last met on May 12th. And one of the topics that we have been working with for that Finance Committee is a rule on fees. Basically, the statutory language that was passed gives the commission authority to charge fees in a few different ways. There is the possibility that they could charge every state a certain assessment, but that is not something that a lot of states were favorable to. There's another option, which could be for anyone who wants to participate in the compact. There could be a sort of administrative charge. And that is something that the Professional Counseling Compact has done. And so that was something that people viewed as favorable. So basically, the concept of these fees outlines what fees are allowed to be charged, how they would be collected. And so once the compact goes live, the current language that's being discussed would basically allow for an administrative fee to be charged when the multi-state licenses are being issued by the different states. And then that administrative charge would go back to the commission. There's been a lot of discussion about how much that administrative charge should be. I think right now it's going to depend on the volume of individuals that wish to obtain a multi-state license. And that is also going to be determined on how many states are able to go live with the compact once it is up and running. And so, but I think that is the preferred method of funding the commission going forward, would be once it launches to be able to do that administrative charge. In terms of a starting point, I mentioned I really hope the social work compact is very successful. And so I said, I think, at least in Kansas, based on our surveys that we have done, we expect about half of our master's level social workers and maybe even half of our clinical social workers to want to get a multi-state license. And if that is consistent across the states, I think we can have a very low administrative charge, something as low as $10 that would go along with the multi-state license. Other states kind of expressed concern about a fee that low. There was also consideration of something like a $30 fee. I argued that that was way too high, I thought. I think if we can keep the fees low, I think we can allow more people the opportunity to join this compact and it'll be more successful. So I think based on the discussions right now, I think where that number is kind of hovering is probably right around $20, but it would still take a full commission vote. So that is kind of what's being talked about, and that would be at issuance of a multi-state license. So for us, if someone were to get a multi-state license to go along with their traditional in-state license, it would be essentially a $20 fee going to the commission, in addition to the $25 fee for the multi-state license. There was also some sort of information that we had discussed as far as when certain fees would be remitted to the commission. Some of the licensing agencies are kind of small. And so the idea would be at the end of each month, we would reconcile and then provide those administrative fees back to the commission. So a lot of focus has been on fees. There's also been a subcommittee for the finance committee. I don't serve on that subcommittee, but essentially what their topic has been is how much ongoing staffing will be needed by this commission once it is fully live. Will you need a full-time executive director? Will you need full-time clerical staff? How much legal support will you need? What are going to be the ongoing costs? And in the last couple of months, there has been an announcement that the executive council has agreed to a contract with the vendor for the data system. So that has now been determined. I have not seen the numbers on how much that agreement will be, but that will be the ongoing cost to have the system built. And then there will be the cost every year for maintenance once it is fully built. So don't have those numbers, but basically I think that will be the final step in gauging this fee amount to determine how much is needed to stand up the compact commission, and then also to allow for the continual cost. There's about, I think, somewhere between 30 and 35 states that have now passed the compact language. And I think the goal is to have it closer to 40, if not a little bit higher. It'd be nice if all states joined, but some states are not in favor of compacts. So, but I do think we'll be able to do our best to keep that fee pretty low once the compact goes live. The other committee that I serve on is the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee discussions have been on things like making sure people would be able to transfer their multi-state license, or what occurs if they transfer their home state license. So we're making sure that some of those scenarios are dealt with. Right now, for someone to get a multi-state license when the compact goes live, they would have to live in a state that has passed the compact legislation and has implemented it. But then if they move to another state, there's a procedure where their multi-state license would need to get moved from one state to the other. So we've been working on that as well. There's also a rule on adverse actions. So If someone does have some past disciplinary history, there is going to be sort of a look at that. The SIPAC compact, by comparison, says if you ever had any disciplinary history, you can't practice under that compact. Social work is a little bit different. It basically asks about, is your license currently impacted by a disciplinary order, basically. So are you working under conditions or different things like that? And so we're finalizing the rule on the adverse actions. And then I've also put forth a concept to deal with something that a lot of the compacts have struggled with, and that is the requirement of a background check. So the social work compact does require a background check for someone to get a multi-state license and to practice under that. However, what some of the other compacts have done is they have given states that don't require a background check a grace period, which would allow their individuals to practice under the compact for a certain number of years while the state makes arrangements for the background check process to be fully ironed out and get approval from the federal government. So SIPAC was able to do that, and I think that allowed more states to launch all at the same time. I think if you don't have that in place, what you could run into is an issue where not all states can go live. And if you only have a handful of states that go live at the same time, that could impact how much revenue is coming in and the functioning of the agreement. So I have put forth a proposal, and will do my best to argue to the rules committee and the full body some sort of a grace period, even if it is something brief like a few years. That would give states enough time, hopefully, to put this in place and make sure that they can launch at the same time everyone else does to allow for better continuity of care. There will be a meeting of the delegates for the compact in June. I think we want to make sure that everything is moving forward. There's also been an opening on the executive committee for the compact, so they will need to elect a new member to serve in that role. And there have been some concerns about the speed at which the compact is moving forward. I can just tell you from my perspective, I think that the compact, while it is taking some time to get this up and running, things appear to be getting taken care of in terms of the finance committee's action, that subcommittee that was working under the finance committee, the rules committee. I think what we're trying to learn from the experience of other compacts is those that have rushed to go live right away have found that there are things they probably should have dealt with before they went live. And so I think what we all want is when this compact does go live, that it is successful and that we don't find that there were these big errors or issues that we wish we would have resolved. So I do still think the target is either, if not the end of this year, the start of 2027, but we're not quite there yet. So I'll go ahead and in my just summation of some of these meetings and see if there's any questions on the social work compact.
Your concern about the rollout brought to mind the rollout of Obamacare and how our former governor, who had gone to start to get that rolled out, because of the glitches with that rollout, ended up losing her job, basically. So, yeah, making sure things are in order before you go live is a smart idea, I think.
It's a priority for me, and I know others with the social work compact. I know how interested everyone is in the compact and how anxious everyone is to start. And so, but we are definitely mindful of that. We just want to make sure that we have something that will be really successful when we do go live. And so we are taking care and meeting about as frequently as we can, given the responsibilities of the other commissioners. But things are moving forward, and I think we'll have a really successful compact. I really think, looking at the other different compacts, this is probably my favorite setup of all of the compacts. And I think it will be probably the best model. So I think others should probably look at this model. But there's a lot of things to consider, a lot of things we want to make sure we have in place. But I think this will be probably the most successful of the compacts.
Good to hear. It's great. Thank you. Next on our agenda is an update on the ASWB. We already talked about the education meeting, but they are getting ready to launch a new version of the licensing exam. I think it's important to note that this is not a result of the disparate findings or the disparate pass rate. It's something that they do regularly every so many years. Don't know if it's 6 years or what the interval is. So they were going to be revising the test anyway. But I think that it's certainly been informed by those concerns regarding the disparate pass rates. So do you have a summary on that?
And just
The
just
launch of the new licensing exam in August?
Yeah, just some highlights with that. We have some links on our website to information from the Association of Social Work Boards. By the way, I saw that Anna Boyer just logged in, so she is
Oh,
present.
good. Mhm. Hi,
But
Annis.
Hello.
Welcome.
oh,
Mhm.
and Annis, we were just talking about the new launch of the licensing examination for ASWB that'll be coming up in August. So they are launching a new version of the test. And Cynthia was just mentioning, the licensing examination is updated every few years. ASWB the last couple of years had been doing a census of social workers and just kind of learning more about what is being done at the different levels of licensing out in the profession, and that is what typically happens. They collect information, revise the examination. One of the most significant changes in this version of the test is that they are shifting from 4 content areas to 3 content areas, and the number of questions on the test is going down significantly. As I said, there's more information posted on our website. There's also a lot posted on the ASWB website. They are continuing to phase in the 3 option multiple choice questions. The ultimate goal is to get to where the entire test is 3 option multiple choice questions, but that has been sort of a phased in approach for that. And I believe there's some increased flexibilities in terms of, as you said, Cynthia, some of this is being informed by the past concerns. And so I think there are some increased accommodations, at least in terms of things like breaks or the opportunity to have a snack if you have low blood sugar, those kind of things.
Mhm.
So I think they've made some real efforts to address things content-wise, but also sort of just non-content that to me seem like common
Conditions, right, yeah.
additions. And so yeah, but that official version of the test will launch in August. And we're trying to be helpful to people that are kind of caught in between the transition of the test. And so if anyone has concerns, please feel free to have them reach out to our staff. We can provide information, but yeah, from what we have heard, the new exam should launch in August, and then we'll kind of wait to see the details in the pass rate. And so
Yeah.
but that'll be a
Um,
big thing coming up. So
I think they're going from 4 to 3 answers on the multiple choice too, if I recall
mhm.
correctly. So they've made some structural changes, some can change testing condition changes, and they've, changed their preparation materials to match the new exam. So we will be interested to see what the results are of all those changes.
I saw that Dr. Cohen Young's hand was up. So
Yes.
Hi, good morning.
Good
Quick
morning.
question. I know I'm backtracking a little bit, but because it was brought up as far as supervision
Oh, yeah.
and being responsible in that realm of preparation for tests, when we are working with supervisees, is there anything that is available that we can reference current day as far as the makeup of the new exam and how we can
Oh,
best prepare our supervisees for the upcoming test?
I don't know the answer to that question for sure. I just know that they said that they had updated the preparation materials that are available to test takers ahead of the exam. So I think anybody who registers for the exam after us, who was going to be this was going to be the first cohort of taking the exam would be given those materials. They always give you a practice test before when you sign up to take the exam. So I think the test takers will have access to that. That one of the things that they implemented pretty early on was kind of a free course, if you will, about that deals with test anxiety, I think, about, mental preparation for the test. And they initially offered that, I think, only to people who had failed the exam once, but now it is available to anyone. And that I believe you can get through their website, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Dave?
I think so. That
Yeah.
company is called Fifth Theory.
Fifth Theory. Okay. But I would check the website for that, for those materials. But like I said, I know test takers will be given updated test prep materials when they register for the test, and everyone has access to this kind of mindset um, course to prepare for taking the exam.
And
And
Cynthia, I think I can share a little bit of information on that. You
good.
mentioned the ASWB website, and one page that would be really helpful is www.aswb.org, and then the slash, and then 2026 exams. So
Okay.
2026 exams. On that page, aswb.org/2026 exams. There is an exam guidebook. It
Oh,
looks like
good. Okay.
it's about 79 pages, and it kind of talks through the topic areas for the exam, and then how to prepare for the exam, and a little bit of introduction about the exam itself. Um, and also on that page, we talked a little bit about some of the things with the test. Some of the things that are not changing. It will still have a 4-hour time limit. The fees are not changing for the exam. The exam scoring should be the same, and registration and scheduling process will largely be the same. They have a little 3-minute video that kind of walks through some of this on that page as well. Um, but uh, but yeah, I thought this page is kind of helpful, and it does go through some of the things I think people might have questions about as well. So
Mhm. Okay. Good to know. Okay, we have an old business item on our agenda, but I think we're going to table that for a future meeting because we have a lot of work to do to figure out who our new nominees are going to be for we have 4 open seats potentially. We don't have to fill them all, but I feel like given the number of applicants that we had, that we should. What do you all think?
Yeah, I think we have plenty of good folks to choose from, that's for sure.
We do. David had made the point that, if we fill all 4, then, that affects the stagger of when people go off the board. Then we have a big chunk leaving at the same time. But we would have a total of 13. So those folks would come up for renewal in 2 years. And, if they serve the full 8 years that's allowed before you have to take a break, then they would all go off at the same time. So the Social Work Advisory Committee, 8 years in the future, then would be having to fill 4 seats at one time. But um, does anybody have enough of a concern about that issue that you think we should not fill all 4?
I don't. I think given the way life goes, some of them may not stick around for the full 4 terms. I think it's a
Anyway,
a
right.
worthwhile
Mhm.
risk to take.
Okay.
I agree with that as well. We've had, just in the time I've been on the committee, there's been enough of a stagger that I don't think that'll be of a problem.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, I had asked you all to go through all of the applications, and David had sent the cover letter and resume for all 72. Um, Took me quite a while, but I did go through and read all of the letters and all of the resumes. Although there were a couple of people that didn't submit a resume. One person submitted 2 different letters, but not a resume. But most of the applicants did. And I asked for you each to select 5 that you would like to have in the running for as a way of starting to pare down from 72. Before we make that list, I wanted to just ask, we didn't really set criteria for what we were looking for. So we all kind of just, we all did it how, whatever our own filters were, whatever. So I just kind of wanted to hear from everyone, what were you looking for as you pared down to those five? I was looking for, breadth of a variety of experience. I was looking for different levels of licensure, and I was looking for different geographical location if possible,
Same.
to try to represent as broad a range of possible of social work practice and location. So what did anybody else look at, either in addition to that or instead of that? Did you have any other?
Those are my three biggest ones, particularly looking for a wide variety of scope of practice, different,
Yes.
working with different populations and in different areas. And I was I had a bias, I think, a bit about folks who were living and practicing in other states.
Yes, I
kinda-
felt that way too. With this many to choose from,
Yeah,
I felt like, people that, I mean, there's some folks that live in Kansas but are licensed and practice in several other states as well.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so, that could be useful information in terms of assuming that they're familiar with the licensure laws and regs
mhm,
in those other states.
yeah,
This is one of the concerns with the multi-state, is that when you get the multi-state license, you are required to be familiar with the regulations, and some
yeah,
states have a jurisprudence exam and et cetera. So the more states that you're actually practicing in and licensed in, I think it's going to get more difficult for people to really be aware of that.
yeah.
But
The bigger the
uh,
liability.
yeah, yeah.
I'm licensed in 10 states, and I will say it is overwhelming.
10 states,
Um,
really, Robin. Wow.
yeah, I work virtually, so, and I know Wisconsin does require the jurisprudence as well,
Mhm.
but just keeping track of the CEU and what's required in this
Yes.
state, they're
Yeah.
all about the same, but yet I know what several require something on the
Ethics.
DEI. Well, all of them require
Oh,
something ethics, but then there's more. So being aware of that and just keeping track of, okay, when do you got to renew on this one and stuff. So
you need a
that's
spreadsheet.
been
Yeah,
You
when
do.
it's 10 of them. That's a
absolutely
lot.
one. It is.
Yeah, okay. So, as far as somebody, well, you've been on the board for 8 years, so you've been able to juggle that. So obviously that's possible. But that's a consideration. Yeah, if somebody's not living and working in Kansas. Any other filters that
I
people
was
use?
looking specifically in like rural, more western Kansas.
Mhm.
And then also like I hadn't didn't know if historically we had had like BSWs or bachelor levels. So I think I've one for them. And then one of my staff is applied. So
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah, if anybody actually knows anybody on this list, then
yeah. I have a
certainly
couple that I know.
that's great. That's really valuable to, because I found myself wanting to kind of thinking about, well, where else could I get some information about that? But then I didn't feel like that would be fair to
Mhm.
do that, for one person and not another, that we should go with what everybody offered, as their
Yeah.
intention in their application. Um, okay, so I think maybe the first thing to do would be to make a list of the candidates that we've selected, and then we might want to each of us give just a sentence or two about why we think that person would be a good fit, and then take an initial vote for four. Does that sound like a good jumping off point for us?
Mhm.
Okay.
Cynthia, before you start with that sounds like a great way to move forward. Occasionally, some questions come up during this process. Do you mind if I go ahead and kind of address some of those common questions?
Sure.
Okay. So the advisory committee policy does talk about a lot of the factors that you have already covered here, including the different levels of licensing, and geographic type factors. In terms of if you know an applicant or if you have a close connection, sometimes people have said, does that create a conflict of interest? Do I need to recuse myself? You don't have to recuse yourself. In some cases, it may help the committee if you know things about a particular applicant, or maybe you encourage someone based on that you thought they would do well on the advisory committee. So, of course, members always have the ability to recuse yourself, but you don't have to in this case. And it may be helpful to share information if you know someone, so you don't have to worry too much about that. And in terms of it was referenced as far as individuals living outside of the state. So sometimes people say, is it a requirement that advisory committee members have to live in the state of Kansas? And that's not specific in the advisory committee policy. So it's not a requirement, but it is something that you can definitely take into consideration, which it sounds like some people did. So those things have come up just when discussing applicants for other committees. So I thought I'd address them first. But in this process, usually I defer to all of you as members. So I will just kind of turn it back over to you, Cynthia. And if you need my assistance, please let me know. But the only other thing the advisory committee policy does say is that if you do a vote, it has to be a public vote. So you can't do like a secret ballot type vote. Any kind of voting would have to be public, so that way it could be observed just like an open meeting. So
Okay. All right. Well, we'll use the tally system.
sounds great.
Okay. Robin, you're on the top of my screen, so I'll start with you. What are your 5 names?
I'm going to tell you, I didn't have a chance to go through them.
Okay.
So I'm just going to be honest. Plus, I knew I was getting off, and I didn't know, you know, my role in this, but I did know it's already been said. I'm like, okay, we really need to focus on Kansas on the committee. So that ruled out for me so many, but otherwise I'm just gonna stick right there and I'll listen more on other people's
And then
selection.
come in and vote when okay. All right.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Okay, Christy?
Okay, so my staff is Josh Robertson, or Joshua. He's actually worked for me twice. And I could not do my job if I did not have him by my side. He knows a little bit about a lot of things, and if he doesn't know about it, he researches. He does so much research, just about things I don't even think about. Anyway, and so he has his master's in social work, and then he has his PhD, and I want to say it's something in like metaphysical science or something. He's an author. He does like a lot of, I don't know, a lot of fiction, things I probably don't necessarily understand. Anyway, he is always willing, whenever like he kind of gets thrown a lot of different projects that have nothing to do with training, but he does every single one of them and really embraces them. So huge advocate for him.
That's great.
Yeah.
I
And
love
he
having
lives,
that
yeah.
deeper information.
He lives in, if anybody's familiar, like I think around near Harper or something, maybe like south and west of Wichita. So it's a little remote. Then I had Kevin Baldwin,
Say
B-A-W,
again. Say his name again.
Kevin, B-A-W-D-E-N.
Oh, yeah.
He's MSW and he's in Hayes. So I thought that was good to have someone out there. I have Bryn Haverkamp, who I think I've worked with her somewhere before, but I couldn't tell you where. Either KCSL or St. Francis. She's LSCSW LMAC and lives in Concordia, I think, doing private practice. Then I had Jessica Snyder. She is a BSW and lives in Lawrence. I just thought I'm different perspectives. I haven't heard that yet. And then I have Tiffany Gleason. She's an LSCSW in Hill City.
I had I was trying to figure out where she was, and it looks like she lives in Oklahoma.
Oh, wait, Tiffany Gleason?
I think that's the one I was looking at.
I
Let's-
thought Hill City was up by Thornton.
she was one that was
Multi-state.
in multiple states. Yeah, Boise City, Oklahoma. She got her MSW from the University of New England. She has a
Mhm.
785 phone number. That was what
Mhm.
confused me, but I was trying to find out where does she practice.
Where
And
did
I
you get Hill
found the
City?
name of her practice that was on her resume in Boise City, Oklahoma.
Oh,
Did
then
did
yeah, I don't know.
did you think she was local or she
I
was in
thought she was
I
in
Kansas?
Hill
did.
City.
I thought she
You
was
thought
in
she was
Hill.
where?
In Hill City.
Okay. Hill City, Kansas.
Mhm.
Yeah.
On her letter of interest, she noted that she has an address at Hill City, Kansas.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, apparently she's
Long drive.
right. Maybe she drives, maybe she goes back and forth. I don't know.
Because she's working with veterans, I thought, and in a
Yeah.
rural setting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's on my list too, Christy.
Yeah, I had she noted the rural practice, and so
Yeah.
yeah, that drew me as well for the
Hmm.
range of practice. But then I thought I found that she wasn't local, but there you go. Okay, Joshua, Kevin, Bryn, Jessica, and Tiffany.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay, Annis.
Well, I also had Joshua, Jessica, and Tiffany.
Oh wow.
Um, and then I had Jenny Marsh, who I do know, who has really great macro experience. Um,
Yes.
and she's also the person that hired me at KU forever ago, and she's just a really great person to work with, but really good with systems. Um, and then I had Metria Slaughter,
Hmm.
who's in Wichita and looks like has lots of experience with veterans and military work. Seemed like a good background, but I don't know her.
VA. She was one of the last. Let's see, that was Slaughters. She Metri Slaughter. Yeah, Slaughter. Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay, Eric.
I also had Jenny Marsh, and I would absolutely advocate for her being on this committee. She's done a lot of macro level stuff, good ties to the community, good ties to government agencies in Kansas. I think she would be a wealth of resources. I also had Jessica Snyder. As the BSW candidate. I did have the Josh Robertson as one of my candidates, but I did scratch him, so he'd be like my number 6. I
Okay.
had Robert Queen. He was an LSCSW here in Southeast Kansas. I was just I've worked with him for a multitude of years, always very strong advocate for clientele. He's got a pretty good breadth of experience from people with disabilities as far as physical and intellectual. Um, Hard worker, open to about anything. So I had him listed. I had
Great.
Krista Reed. It was an LSCSW, and then I had another Casey Conger as another BSW that were on my list. I kind of started scratching LSCSWs and DSWs pretty quickly because it seems like everybody has one now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. I noticed that as well. Yeah, I was pleased that we got 2 BSWs that applied because
Yeah.
I think last time we didn't have any. And precious few LMSWs, mostly LSCSWs. Okay, great. Leanne, Gingery. Lee, are you there? You're muted if you're trying to talk. Okay, we'll come back to Leanne. Dr. Cohen Young.
Sorry, I'm working to come off of mute.
That's
The
okay.
challenge over here. Okay, let me go to my list. So, Christian James in Junction City, Kansas. Um, does a lot of great work in the community, really active there. And then let me go down here.
Is this, Christian?
I do know Christian.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
And then I know folks in the Manhattan, Kansas area and Junction City area. So
Yes.
Roshana Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
And then let me go down here. I liked Shimetria Slaughter.
Yes, Shamitri. Mm-hmm.
Shamitri, okay.
Mm-hmm. Because of her VA experience, maybe.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, that was where I kind of stopped at.
Okay.
So is it
That's
okay if I just provide those? Because
Sure,
I wouldn't
absolutely.
be saying any other names in confidence. But yeah, those are the three.
Okay, that's great. Come back to Lee Gingery.
I am sorry. I've been so busy at work. I have not gotten through any of them. So I was just listening to them.
Okay, all right. So you'll just we'll vote on the ones that have been proposed.
Right.
Okay, let's see. I also had Jessica Snyder. So that's 4 of us already that have voted for her. I had Megan Board. She is in Bueller, which is near Hutch, so South Central. She's a school social worker and an adjunct professor at Indiana Wesleyan. And I think I didn't personally know, well, I know one of the applicants, but not very well. But I liked what she said in her letter. Let me find that one. Stuffy. There it is. She talked about she obviously had either listened to some of our recorded meetings or looked at the minutes. She commented on the committee's ongoing work on clinical supervision standards, regulatory updates, and the ethical use of emerging technologies such as AI and social work practice reflects exactly the kind of substantive forward-looking policy work I'm eager to support. I'm committed to the protection of the public and the strengthening of the social work profession in Kansas. And I would bring both practical wisdom and collaborative leadership. So I felt like she had a really strong grasp of what it is that we do, and so that's why I thought she would be a good committee member. I also had Delphine Niquetti. She's here in Kansas City, Missouri. But she also had in her letter, she has a strong background in corrections, and that's a lot of what drew me also as a different area of practice that there aren't as many social workers in as a lot of, certainly the majority of our applicants were in some kind of private practice, even if they were doing something else. That seemed to be the main way that people were practicing social work out of these 72. And then I had Stephanie Broza, who's the director of community care at Lakeview Village. And Lakeview Village is, I believe, it's the one she's talking about is here in Shawnee, Kansas, but she lives in Lawrence. But elder care, I think, is another hugely growing area of social work and important to include. So let me see where my list here. Megan Board is an LMSW. That was another reason too, because as opposed to, as we've been saying, almost all being LSCSWs. And Jessica's a BSW. And then And Delphine Niquetti is also an LM.
I think Cynthia's feed may have frozen. Let's give her a couple seconds and see if that resolves. Cynthia, if you can hear us, we are unable to hear you. I think your screen is frozen. Well, Cynthia,
SW.
oh,
Uh-oh, she left.
hi, Cynthia. Your screen froze, but I think we missed maybe the last minute or two.
Okay. I was asking you, there was one applicant that none of us have named as a one of our choices that on the resume said they were a clinical psychologist, even though their education and their credential were social work. So I wondered if maybe we need to send a letter because I think that's the title.
Was it
That's a
psychologist or
protected.
psychotherapist?
It said psychologist. Yeah. But and even if it, I guess if it said there, we do have a what is it, a master's level psychotherapist license that some
For
of the master's level psychology people go for.
Yeah, the clinical level of master's level psychology is a licensed clinical psychotherapist. So
Yeah. Well, I think she had said on I think she said clinical psychologist, and she didn't have that credential. She was an LSCSW. So I didn't know.
Position, if it's a position title, it doesn't always necessarily mean, because like my official position is psychologist three.
Really?
And we've had some discussions around that for the state hospital. It just happens to be my position. I do carry the master's in psych along with the master's of social work.
Right.
So it's not as big a deal for me, but we have some other social workers. We actually rebranded their job titles to get around it. But my point is if it's their job title, it may not be representative that's required for them to be in psychology, like licensed as a psychologist.
But isn't that a title protection issue?
It isn't
It's state
through
law.
the government of Kansas.
So really, so in a state job, you can be called a psychologist even if you aren't licensed as a psychologist.
Correct. So
Okay.
we have counselors are also considered psychologists, and then our LMFTs and social workers are now being called behavioral therapists or something like that. But you can have different licenses, and like we
To
don't even
fill
actually
that role.
require a license to be a psychologist to have that title. You just have to be licensable.
Huh. Okay. Well, I don't know how that's consistent with the state laws about title protection, but I guess it's not an issue then. I was thinking maybe we should let her know that she was billing herself in a way that wasn't correct. But if
well,
she's a state employee, I guess it could be fine.
and Cynthia, if you want to forward her name to me, I'd be happy to kind of look into it and make sure it's a
Okay.
facility. If it's a facility title type situation, it does get more complicated when those kind of things come into play. But I'm happy to look into it and clarify if that is the situation. So
Okay. All right. I'll send it to you.
okay.
And
Oh,
just to be clear, when I do that, I clearly put like Parsons State Hospital psychologist three. Like I do not like put psychologist three as my my licensure title. I always put the LSCSW out there, but I mean I do carry that title.
okay. That's good to know. To understand that better. Okay. So we have one, two,
And Cynthia, I know
we have 15 names. Go ahead.
Andrea was not able
Oh,
to.
right.
She did provide some feedback. She's not here to vote, but she did want to share that information with all of you. So
Right. You
if
want to,
yeah,
do you have those five? She gave her five names, I think.
I do, yeah, and I'll just go ahead and read off who she
Okay.
had highlighted. These are not necessarily votes for those individuals, but I think it could be helpful just to kind of hear from her perspective. So Andrea had highlighted 5 people. One of the 5, Jessica Snyder, who's been
Right.
highlighted by a few others. Megan Watts, LSCSW from Andover, Kansas. Kyla Miller, and LMSW and LAC from Bel Air, Kansas. Tiffany Rohr, ROHR from Rose Hill. And then one that a few others had mentioned, Joshua Robertson. So.
Okay.
How many do we have that have been proposed more than once?
We have Joshua Robertson that has been proposed 3 times, Jenny Marsh twice, Shemetri Slaughter twice, Jessica Snyder 5 times, Tiffany Gleason twice. I think that's all that have been suggested more than once. So we now have with the 5 that that Andrea submitted, we have, I believe, now 18 names, which is much more manageable than 72. So we've heard several people talked about Joshua Robinson. So is there anybody that wants to say anything more about him before I thought we'd just go through for each of these and see if there's any additional info or thoughts before we vote. So he's worked for Christie a couple times and sounds like he's a solid social worker. Jenny Marsh.
Uh,
Eric.
I think she's got a pretty unique skill set and a unique perspective. I'm not sure we've got anyone else who brings what she could bring. So I'd like to advocate for her.
Okay.
I would pile onto that. Like she presents and like I said, her connections to government agencies. I don't think anybody on this committee would have even close to the amount of connections she has.
So she's dealt with regulation and
Yeah, she's worked for the governor and just has a really good sense of larger systems that could be useful, I think,
Could be
in
very helpful.
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Kevin Bodden from Hayes. Anybody have any more thoughts about him? Shemetri Slaughter, we had a couple of votes for her. She's an MSW in Wichita.
She checks a few
And
boxes with, location, area of practice, and MSW.
she's a social work supervisor with the VA and a PRN crisis therapist in Topeka. So
I had her in Wichita.
yeah, I did. She said Wichita on there, but the crisis center, PRN crisis therapist
is in Topeka.
said was in Topeka. So it might be remote, I don't know.
Lots of people do those crisis weekends and evenings too.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of a long drive for for a week for a shift, but okay. Bryn Haverkamp, LSCSW, LAC. Jessica Snyder, several of us have selected her.
And she works with Adult Protective Services, right?
Yes.
Which I think is helpful.
Again, another unique, and she's a BSW, which
Yeah.
is really important because we haven't had a BSW, I think, in a while on this committee. Tiffany Gleason in Hill City, Kansas, apparently, with the rural health area of practice that I think we were wanting to.
And she's worked with kids and veterans, which I thought was an interesting.
Yes. I think, was she the one that worked with preschoolers too?
Oh, I can't tell you off the top of my head. My note just says
Blur.
kids and veterans.
Eric knew Robert Queen, and he works in disability
And he was my
services.
number 6. So
Okay. Okay, so
He worked for the state hospital for a number of years as like an adult services coordinator, staff supervisor. He went on to get his BSW and then MSW working with Wabet Mental Health down here.
Mhm.
So he would represent a mental health center um,
Yes,
in a small rural community.
Mhm.
yeah, very important. Um, Krista Reed, LSCSW. Any other thoughts about her? Casey Conger, who's a BSW, also the other one that applied. Um, Christian, Dr. Young, you said you knew him, her, him.
Yes, him. Yes,
Yeah.
I do. Just very active in his community and doing some great work uh, in the field. But that's all.
And what was the name again? The
Christian
last
James.
name? His last name?
James.
James. Okay.
I hope I'm breaking up. I'm driving. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. Megan Board was the LMSW that I said I thought was very tuned into what our committee does. Um, wrote a letter that indicated she's been following our work. Delphine Niquetti, LMSW from Kansas City, Missouri. And then we have Megan Watts, LSCSW from Andover, Kansas. Any more thoughts about Megan? Kyla Miller. I who proposed her, or is that one that Andrea proposed, Kyla?
She was someone that Andrea had highlighted.
Yeah, okay. Tiffany Rohr from Rose Hill. I don't think Andrea gave any notes or anything about any of these people about why she was proposing them.
She did give a couple notes for Jessica Snyder. She had highlighted her DCF experience and focus on adults and aging adults.
Yes.
For Megan Watts, she highlighted the supervision item and then also healthcare. For Kyla Miller, she highlighted works for a billing organization and also private practice. For Tiffany Rohr, she highlighted the legal perspective.
Because she
And
was corrections.
uh,
Tiffany Rohr, I think.
and there wasn't any additional comments for Joshua Robertson. It was just his name. So
Okay. Oh, there's me. Okay. And then Stephanie Rosa was the other one that I had suggested. And she, let's see where her paper is. Not too much paper here. Yeah, she's worked in acute care hospital and long-term care, short-term rehab. She was the one that's the director of community care at Lakeview Village. So I thought that she would bring some valuable perspective from practice in elder care area. Okay, so we have these names to go through. I would suggest that we go through and everybody vote for 4. And then we'll see see who gets the top votes. Does that sound like a
Can I
way? I think,
offer a counter suggestion? Since
yes,
Jessica Snyder and Josh Robertson received more than a couple, could we just put those as 2 of the 4 right out of the gate?
I think that's a good idea and makes sense. Jessica Snyder got 5 votes already, so and Joshua Robertson got 3. There's
And then
3
by
others
my
that
count, Jenny Marsh is the only other one that got more than one.
And
she had 2. Shemetry had 2, Tiffany Gleason had 2. But Jenny, yeah, both, because both Annis and you knew Jenny.
So
I'd be
could we
good with
just
her
pick
too.
2 of those remaining 3? And that way we're down to just eliminating one person instead of a
Mhm.
multitude at that point.
1, 2, that puts us at, let's see,
That would be 5.
Jenny Marsh, Shemetry Slaughter, and Tiffany Gleason all got 2. So yeah, if we,
If we just pick 2 of those 3, then we have our 4 candidates.
yeah, that makes sense. So
Sounds-
that Jenny Marsh, Kevin Bodden, and Tiffany Gleason.
No,
Okay.
Jenny Marsh, Shemitria, and Tiffany, right?
Okay, so we've heard from the 2 of you that know Jenny. I was gonna just look at my notes on her. If you need to have any more information to vote on to be able to choose two out of those 3. About the Shemetry. Shemetry Slaughter, as I said, is the crisis, does a PRN crisis work and is it works for recovery-based services. She's a social work supervisor at the VA. And we've heard about Jenny Marsh's macro practice. And the third one was Tiffany Gleason. And we thought that she has worked with kids and veterans and has a rural practice focus that would be good to bring to the board. Okay, so I think that's is everyone good with that idea that we just vote between Jenny, Shemetry, and Tiffany to choose our other 2?
That sounds good for me. This is Lee.
Okay. All right, let's do that. Jenny Marsh, all in favor?
And sorry, before we do this, unfortunately, Dr. Cohen Young had to drop off the call. So you're currently at 6
You're gonna
members. So you are 1 below quorum. You were very close.
Brett and Mike Gillette, he said he was gonna leave and come back, so.
Yeah. How about if I send a message to the rest of the members of the advisory committee and see if perhaps one of them who had
Zoom
to
in?
leave could log in, or if someone had a conflict at the beginning, maybe they could log in just to make sure that there's no issues. I know we had quorum just until a second ago, but I want to make sure that we're doing things appropriately. So
Yes, I agree.
let me send a quick message out, and then if we can have one more member log in, we should
Okay.
have a sufficient number where we can do a vote. So.
Okay, I hope we can get one more. In the meantime, I want to say great thanks to Robin and Mike left, but Robin and Leanne and Mike are all rotating off after 8 years of service on the Social Work Advisory Committee. That's a big commitment of time and energy, and we appreciate it very much. Been a lot of change that's happened in the last 8 years in social work in Kansas, hasn't there,
Yeah,
Robin?
very informative to sit on this committee.
You probably learned a lot of stuff you never knew you needed to know, huh?
I will agree with that. And just being aware in Southwest Kansas, the social workers I interact with, I'm like, oh wait, no. I know we discussed that at the last meeting, and I think I was able to share some out here that maybe we wouldn't know, and that we are being represented.
Yeah. Well, that's great because that's very much what we've been talking about
Mhm.
trying to make sure we have representation from across the state so that
Yes,
people can spread the word of whatever's going on with the board and have a
right.
better relationship with the board, I think, and also know more about, what policy issues are going on and
Mhm.
maybe have the opportunity even to, speak up about it, have their voices heard. Leanne, do you have any reflections on your 8 years?
I will have to get right back to you. I'm on the phone right quick.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, it's kind of, I can't even believe that Annis and Christy, you guys have been 2 years already.
Has it been 2 years already? Wow.
Seems like it was just
think
a
it's
year
one.
year ago that you guys came on board, right? Or is it two?
I think it's only been one.
Yeah,
That's-
maybe it's only one for you, Annis, and two for Christy. Is that right?
Or it just went by really fast.
Yeah, usually it goes by the state fiscal year. It looks like Dr. Cohen Young can log back in. So
Oh, good.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you, Dr. Young. Oh, she's not on yet. Okay.
Okay. Hi,
Great. Hi.
I'm driving.
Thank
I
you. Okay, thank
so-
you for logging back in just for our vote. So we have narrowed it down. We have three candidates, and we need to select two out of these three.
Okay.
And one is Jenny Marsh, that you might remember Eric and Annis both knew and highly
Yes.
recommended.
From
She's
Kansas
yes,
University from KU. Yeah, she would get my vote.
macro. She's a macro practice
Yes.
person. Shemetri Slaughter from Wichita, who's with the VA,
Mhm.
and Tiffany Gleason, who represents a rural health practice in Hill City, Kansas. So we're going to take a vote on those three and ask everyone to vote for just two. Oh,
It's-
here comes
it's-
Andrea too.
yeah,
Good.
Andrea was able
Oh,
to log in
okay.
as well. So
Hello.
Hey,
Well-
Andrea, how are you doing? I was just explaining to Dr. Young, who also zoomed back in for us so we can take our final vote. We've narrowed it down to we need to choose we need to choose two from these three names. Jenny Marsh, who Eric and Annis both knew, and she's a macro social worker, and they highly recommend her. Shemetri Slaughter from Wichita, who brings the VA perspective, and Tiffany Gleason, who has a rural health practice, has worked with kids and veterans both, and she's her apparently in Hill City, Kansas. So those are the three that we're selecting two. So I'm asking everyone to just vote for two. So everybody ready? Okay. So Jenny Marsh, all in favor of Jenny Marsh, raise a hand so I can, well, I guess I can't see everybody, but I have to, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Annis, did you vote for Jenny? No. Yes, you
She's
did.
got her digital hand
Oh.
up.
Dr. Young does, yes. But okay, and there's I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Andrea, I can't see you. Are
I
you?
don't have anything up.
Okay. All right. So that was 6 votes for Jenny. 6. No, 7 votes because I voted for it too. Just Shemetri Slaughter from Wichita. Who's votes for Shemetri? Anyone? Okay. Tiffany Gleason. Who's in favor of Tiffany Gleason? Andrea's got her thumb up. There we go. Okay. Looks like we have our candidates. So our 4 new committee members will be Joshua Robinson, Jenny Marsh, Jessica Snyder, and Tiffany Gleason. Does that sound right?
And his last name is Robertson.
Yes, Robertson.
And as far as the official recommendation, you could either vote on having that be the 4, or it's okay to be doing it by consensus. And so it sounds like there's consensus, but just wanted to confirm that before we move
Yes.
forward. So
It does sound like we have consensus on those 4 that those will be our new committee members to be appointed by the chairman of the BSRB, Laura Shaughnessy.
yeah, and so the official next steps, I'll go ahead and put together a letter that just describes the candidates who had applied, the recommendations of the advisory committee. Officially, the chair of the board has the authority to appoint, so the names will be forwarded in that letter, and Cynthia and Andrea will be CC'd as well. And so the current board chair is Dave Anderson, and so he will be the chair at the next meeting on July 20th. And then at that meeting, the board will have an election for a new chair, and the chair will start after that meeting. But if Dave Anderson has any questions, he can follow up with Cynthia and Andrea or myself. But if there's no issues, then we would list those names on the agenda for the July board meeting, and then those members' first meeting would be in August. So, I usually do is I wait for the official appointment to occur, and then I reach out to those individuals to let them know they've now been appointed. We can update the website, and then here's some information as far as the onboarding process. So,
Okay. And as I recall, last time we asked that the other applicants be notified, and that they certainly be notified that there were 72 applicants, so that, they understand that, really, I mean, there were only one or two of these that I didn't think would have served well as members of the committee. So, it's wonderful that we had that many willing applicants, but I do want people to not to feel bad that they weren't selected, and to know that they
Do we
had.
have any indication of why so many people responded this time? Do we?
No, we were speculating earlier that it might be because of the survey, that,
Oh, good point.
people, were
That's great.
more aware of that we even exist and what we
Yeah.
do, and the fact that they were asked for some detailed, opinions and thoughts about social work in Kansas, maybe made them more interested in participating in this process.
yeah,
That's my guess.
just for some history, so we've had openings on the advisory committee for social work in 22, 24, 25, and now 26. In 22, we had 30 applicants. In 24, we had 15. In 25, we had 23. And then this time around, we had 72. So I think you are correct, Cynthia. I think the survey, and one of the questions, we did this with some intentionality. We asked a question on there, how familiar were people with the work of the Social Work Advisory Committee? But within that question, we made it a very kind of lengthy question where we said, by the way, this committee meets every other month. It's broadcast meetings on YouTube. And so we're hoping that by asking that and bringing it to the attention of social workers, it would raise awareness. So there may have been other factors too, but really happy with that. It looks like
Yeah.
Mike Gillette is logging back in as well.
Oh,
So
hey, Mike,
Hi,
welcome back.
sorry I was so late.
It's okay. You told us you had to log out and log back in. So I will ask you, as I asked Robin and Leanne earlier. First of all, thank you for your 8 years of service on the Social Work Advisory Committee. And do you have any reflections about that time on the board or on the committee, and the changes maybe
I'd
that?
say it's gone fast. I have enjoyed it, and it has been different, having one executive director than having a new executive director, and they both have their strengths, and we have good help and clarity with David and our directions, and very good reports in terms of knowing what's going on with ASWB and the compact. Sometimes it's a little frustrating thinking, well, why can't we just get something done quicker on this? And
Because it's government.
and going back to that supervisor's manual, I remember working on it before you guys picked it up.
Right.
And
Mhm.
it was wonderful, tool that we couldn't really use. And I'm like, everybody needs this tool, but we can't use it. So,
Mhm.
or at least it can't be statutorily
We can't be required, right? Well,
right,
but I mean,
right.
the required stuff is in that manual, but the art of, supervision and what the more of the actual
Right.
content of it, that's what
Yeah.
we aren't able to prescribe.
Yeah, and I wish that that was more available. Like if ASWB or someone would pick it up and say, "Hey, here's myself. I've been asked to do some supervision, and so I started looking for classes and what classes could help." And I'd say that I have not found good classes that were like giving good direction, where I thought that manual that you guys had developed had really given a lot of good, clear direction. I wish it could be at least an augment somehow. So
Yeah.
that would be my reflections.
Hmm.
And I know that the new people who come are going to be eager to try to help get some of these things done, like get the compact done, get the supervision, models
Hmm.
more useful, figuring out how AI is going to impact the overall field. But it's been interesting, and I've enjoyed it. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for your service. I would just note that I recently discovered that Profura, if any of you use Profura for your insurance, they have a number of free CEs on AI. In fact, Tim Davis from Fort Hayes did some for them. So that's, a resource if you want to drill down into the AI topic further, as we've been discussing episodically over the last several years now. Yeah.
So I do use Prefera, so I should definitely
Yeah.
check that out. Thank you.
Yeah, something came across in my email about a free CE they were offering, an ethics CE or something, and I went on the site, and it turns out they have a bunch of them, and most of them were created by ASWB for Prefera. So, yeah, if you're one of their insureds, you can get access to those. So get some of your 40 CEs that way for your license renewal. Okay, well, thank you all so much. I wasn't sure how we were going to pare that down and come up with only 4 names. So I think that worked out well. We're going to have some good new members. Okay, let's see. We have a few minutes. We could go back to the old business topic, although I don't know. At our last meeting, David, you had said you were going to gather some additional information about alternative pathways to licensure that may be happening in other states. I don't know if you had a chance to do that, or if you're prepared to give us any of that information now, or if we want to hold that over again.
Well, I would say let's go ahead and hold it over, but there is some information that I have requested from the Association of Social Work Boards, ASWB. They do have a website that has a spotlight on regulation. It's a publication that they have, and I've requested a copy of that publication. But at their website, it's a little bit tricky of a way to get to their website, but it's aswb.org/licenses/how to get a license/licensing requirements by state or province. So at their website, they do have a page where you can look at which states offer associate, bachelor's, clinical, master's, advanced practitioner, or in Canada, they call them registered social workers instead of licensed. But their licensing framework is separated out about maybe 12 different ways, 12 different styles for licensure. So that is a pretty good map where you can kind of see what states require, what some of the fees are, some of the hours of supervised experience. So I was hoping to use that as kind of one of the things we're looking at when you kind of see what are the requirements state to state, and we can kind of identify which states don't have the same types of requirements,
Mhm.
at least in terms of a alternate pathway. So that is something that has been requested. I don't have it yet, but I should have it before our next meeting.
Okay.
And I'll try to get some other information too on what some of the states have done as they've explored this topic. I know some of them have had task force or committees that have looked at this. I know we had some questions about requirements for licensure that we've included on past surveys of social workers. So I think that feedback from our social workers will be helpful too. But
Mhm.
more to come. So
Okay, that's great. Appreciate it. Okay, well, that was actually the only other thing on our agenda for today. So I think that we may be able to adjourn a few minutes early, unless anyone has any other questions or comments.
Well, just a quick, and sorry to be the person that's keeping everybody to the bell. Hate to be that person in school, but I did want to just share on behalf of the BSRB to the outgoing members of the Social Work Advisory Committee. Cynthia, I appreciated your comments, and you and Andrea have done an excellent job of leading this advisory committee and helping all the members. And those that are coming off, Mike, Leanne, and Robin, really appreciate all of your service. This is an opportunity, but it also is a time commitment. And I know that you all have other things you could be spending your time on, but your contributions here are so incredibly valuable. I think our advisory committee system is one of the strengths of the BSRB, that we do get to hear from so many licensees out in the community in different areas, and that information can fuel recommendations that get forwarded to the board. So I want to thank you all for making the sacrifices that you have made to serve on the advisory committee. And also to remind you, based on the advisory committee policy, it does say after serving 8 years, you will need to come off the advisory committee for at least 2. But in the future, after 2 years, should you want to serve on the advisory committee, please consider submitting if you want to return and rejoin the advisory committee.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Invaluable experience.
definitely. And just one last edit. I made a mistake on your agenda for the meeting today. It does say the next meeting will be June 2nd, which is today.
Which is today.
I generally try to use a template and update that, and occasionally I miss something. So the next meeting is actually going to be in August. The first Tuesday of the month, it will be August 4th at 10 a.m., and that'll be a remote meeting like we generally have.
Yep. Great. Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it.
And a second.
I second.
Thank you, Dr. Young. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Have a great rest of your day. Take
Thank you.
care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.